In this presentation, I am going to discuss configuring logging for your Genero application server. I have already introduced the Genero application server configuration file, as.xcf, in the Configurations Basics presentation. Logging is configured by the log element within the Genero application server configuration file. At installation with version 2.11, the log element is set up to write out log information to a daily log file, where each day's log file is identified by a timestamp. It writes out the log in plain text, and it records log information on three categories: gas, process, and deprecated. The output element identifies where the log file is written to. If the output type is set to daily file, the log file is written to a timestamp name log file in the fglasdir/log directory. Each day, a new log file is started whose name reflects the current date. You can also specify an alternate directory for your daily log files. If you want to write out to a log file of your own naming, you set the type to path and specify a path and file name. With this configuration, the log continues to grow as a single log file. It is up to you to manage its growth and size. Your third option is to set the type to console. With this setting, as expected, the log messages are written to the console. For the format, you can either select text or XML, which specifies whether the message is formatted as plain text or XML. For log files written using the XML format, it is standard to use XSL to process the log messages and retrieve the desired data for further processing or analysis. You can also set two optional attributes. The timestamp attribute specifies what timestamp is used when recording log messages to the log file. Absolute says to use the server time, while relative says to use the time or duration since the server was started. The print full context specifies whether to log events immediately as they occur, the default of no, or when the complete information is available for the log file. To wait for the complete information, you set the print full context attribute to yes. It is only valid when writing out logs with the type set to XML. This attribute is ignored if the type is set to text. You should probably only set to yes when you are involved in troubleshooting. The optional categories filter element identifies the type of log messages to be captured. You may specify multiple values within the categories filter value by listing multiple filter names separated by spaces. The list of valid values for this element and a description of each category can be found in the GAS documentation. The final optional element of a log configuration is the raw data element. With this element, you can specify the maximum length of any single log message entry. The numeric value specifies the number of characters for a single log message. By default, this element is omitted and there is no cap to any single log message length. It is written out in its entirety. You can have a single Genero application server create more than one log file by repeating the log element. For example, let's say you want to capture the information about timeouts occurring in a separate log file than your main daily log file. You would create a new log element. You would specify an output type of path and specify a separate directory and file name for the log file. And you would set its categories filter to timer. You now have two log files being written for a single application server.